Final Boy Status is a podcast about scary movies and the stuff that happens in them. The entire horror genre is generally frightening and disturbing, so if you're a kid, be sure to ask your parents if it's okay for you to listen. Or don't. You'd probably be cooler if you didn't ask for their permission. But then again, I won't tell you how to live your life. Also, we will be discussing spoilers during this podcast, so don't say we didn't warn you.
Okay, hey guys, we're back at you with another episode of Final Boy Status. It's yours truly, Lance and Lappin, hosting tonight. I am joined by the esteemed gentleman, Adam Michael Bone.
Yes, sir.
And rowdy Luke Haueter.
I came here to eat spaghetti and kick butt, and I've already kicked my own butt.
So now we just gotta get this boy some spaghetti. Alright, so we have a treat for you guys. For some of you that have not tuned into our illustrious show before, the thing that we like to do on this show,
We've all watched a scary movie with somebody who just won't shut up about how easy it is to get out of that situation. If I was in that situation, I would cut that dude up. I would get out of there. I would live happily ever after. This is the podcast where we're putting that to the test. We're watching horror movies and we're going, all right, is it reasonable that all these people die? Or if us, three average Joes, were in that situation, could we make smarter decisions and get out of it?
this episode, we're going to be kind of switching things a little bit. The movie that we're talking about is Donnie Darko, which is a fantastic movie with the ever so handsome and ever so talented Jake Gyllenhaal. Luke, why don't you kind of give us some general background on like what this shindig is all about?
This is, of course, Donnie Darko, released in the year of our Lord 2001. Was written and directed by Richard Kelly. We talk about our principal cast here, just star-studded. I had to write down so many names. You have Jake Gyllenhaal, Jenna Malone, James Duvall, Maggie Gyllenhaal, and Holmes Osborne, Mary McDonald, and of course we have to mention Patrick Swayze is in this movie, you guys. So I can tell you a few things about this movie. The general premise of the movie, I guess if we were going to try to describe it,
Really tough to put into words, but
it's
let's hear
a
your crack at it.
it's a very heady film. If I were to give a very vague description, and we are going to launch into spoilers, by the way, in a minute here, but if I'm going to give a vague description of the movie, I would say a young boy named Donnie Darko very narrowly avoids being killed in a very horrific accident, and in the aftermath of surviving this catastrophic event, he just finds that his life is beginning to change very rapidly, and he's having a lot of hallucinations and a lot of troubling thoughts, and things in the world are just starting to come to light in a way that they never have for this young man before, and he's trying to figure out what it all means in 28 days.
What are our general impressions or opinion of the film?
I mean, I haven't even seen stills for this movie. Like, I knew there was a rabbit, I think, because Luke mentioned it.
Can I interrupt for just a second to talk about probably the best succession of lines ever in a movie ever?
Sure.
Which is, why are you wearing that stupid bunny suit? Well, why are you wearing that stupid man suit? Every time I hear it, my mind explodes. I not to be crude, but I
Not to be crude, proceeds to be crude.
I love that in a movie where you stop and you go, wait, what did they just say? I'm sorry?
Hold on a minute.
That's the craziest thing I've ever heard. I love that.
So for me, I would give it...
To be clear, for any of you big Donnie Darko fans out there, we did have access to the director's cut. We elected to watch the theatrical cut. Maybe one day we'll do something to talk about the director's cut.
I'd be very interested to watch it personally, at least.
If you were to give your opinion of the movie, what would you rate it out of 13?
Even though it's confusing and doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me right now because I'm going to watch some deep dives on YouTube or something. But I think right now I'm very impressed with how the movie flowed and the script, and I don't know. I really liked it. It's hard to just go straight out of 13, but I think I think for being low budget and what they were working with, but the acting chops, I don't know, everything was pretty good. I would give it about I'd give it a 10 out of 13. I think it was 2000. What was it? 2001.
2001.
Obviously, a very low budget. Some of the special effects were pretty. They took me a little bit out of the movie, just being like, that doesn't look that good. But it was fine. I don't know. Talking about Christopher Nolan, if we got some of his interstellar magic into some of the wormhole scenes, that'd be really cool.
If we got Matthew McConaughey to play Donnie Darko.
All right, Frank.
Why are you wearing that stupid bunny suit?
I'll take my man suit off right here, right now.
There are a couple lawbreakers out there. Oh, that'd be awesome.
I'm going to go ahead and give this an 11 out of 13.
And I need time to sit on it, and obviously you've had more time, so probably the messages have to mull over in my head. But I think movies, I've seen a lot of movies that are also very pretentious and also really trying to reach for it, but just don't nail it like this one did.
Yeah, so in my rating, I would give it I would give it the same as Adam. I'd give it a 10 out of 13. I think something that really was strong for me is it's not like anything I've seen before in my experience. And so that usually for me, if I watch a movie and it's like, oh, this is new, this is different, that usually is pretty high on the list for me. In some elements, obviously some elements I'll definitely have to look into more and to think about more. But I think that's what's awesome about the movie as well, is that it's not just color by numbers, serve you up on a silver platter. You got the crux of it the first time watching it. I think being able to think about it and to think about what it means and what your own interpretation of the movie means. So I would give it a 10 out of 13. For some people out there, they would argue that this movie is not a horror movie.
All right.
So I guess the question is this a movie a horror movie? And if so, why? Or if not, why?
We kind of need to justify doing it on the podcast, especially because in some ways we're like throwing out the format for this movie, so it has to be worth it.
Yeah, right? We have to justify it for sure.
For sure.
Let's argue the case. I think it's definitely a horror movie. I kind of missed the whole buzz of. I just haven't heard much about this movie, but just watching it, and for one, it takes place in October, and there's a Halloween party, right? So it kind of has the aesthetic of that, but also, I think the way it looks like a horror movie. I think the visual style is very horror-esque. Just like I said, the character of Frank. Where does that, it does this a lot better, I would say, but is it which I know what you did last summer, was it where it did like the speed up thing and then slow down, where was it the third one? Anyways,
where it was like shots of clouds
and then it speed up and then
slow down for some reason.
This had shots that reminded me of that, where it was like, I don't know, where it would do a fast-paced thing and then slow it down a little bit, or slow-mo, like the way it chose those things, and the style was very, I think, just called to a lot of horror. I think what it was about wasn't your paint-by-numbers horror movie, but I say it is just because it looks like it, because of the aesthetic. It was more creative, and so I don't think that disqualifies it from the genre.
A horror movie, like, at its core, is about your main character experiencing and handling their fear. If you could claim one thing about every scary movie, it's putting your protagonist in that place where they have to deal with their own fear.
Yeah.
Donnie Darko just doesn't have the same fears as everybody else. If a horror movie is about your protagonist coming face to face and confronting their fear, this movie is a horror movie every step of the way. Everything that is like stereotypical of like the horror movie exists in this, but it's somehow also a deconstruction of it.
Battle of Slants, and I dare you.
Yeah. Battle.
Yeah. Come on, what you got? Come on,
What do
boy.
I got?
Come on, boy. Come on, boy.
Y'all don't even know my position on this.
I agree.
I want you to argue with me right now in front of that fat man in a tracksuit.
Okay, bro. This ain't no horror movie. Because babysitter didn't get killed, okay? And that's my story. I'm sticking to it. No, but
if it was a spooky movie, how come I don't see no boobies in this movie?
there was no. Well, there wasn't really much. There wasn't really any nudity.
No.
I'm being honest.
No,
I can't.
It is like a rated R movie, and
The
Well,
dialogue is pretty rated R.
sure, yeah.
A lot of
it's all the dialogue. I don't think
Yeah.
there's really anything that would give this a rated
they're
R.
kissing on a bed and then it cuts
Yeah.
away. It's very
Yeah.
very tame as far as that's concerned.
So
I guess-
that's why it's
I
not
guess-
a horror movie.
I guess you see Seth Rogen and the other guy doing coke at one point. That's kind of rated R.
Just like
Well,
in
in
the
the locker.
school hallway, by the way, like next to
There's a
Seth
teacher
Rogen's
over there.
locker.
Well, guess what? They do that in Scarface, but still not a horror movie.
it's true. You've convinced me.
Yeah,
Not a horror movie.
You're right.
There's
You're
the
right.
stamp.
End of episode.
No, but on a more serious note, yeah, I would definitely say that this movie qualifies as a horror movie because it's like, who really gets to set the rules of what's a horror movie and what's not? If we're being honest. The gods of horror are like, nah, you didn't make the cut, bro. But yeah, I guess the thing, in my own interpretation of it, I think one of the fears that's examined by Donnie is like death. And in a sense, it's like the inevitability of that. Even though that he can see all these amazing, incredible things that are, theoretical in physics and in science, and has all these amazing experiences, he still dies like anybody else could die, like in an accident.
Mm-hmm.
Like that engine could have killed anybody.
Yeah, no
it's-
surviving that.
Yeah, there's no I'm gonna say there's no surviving that. Unless your name is Kal-El, no surviving that. So yeah, I would definitely say, like, for me, I think that's something that makes a strong horror movie is when you can take, the examination of fear or any sort of emotion and kind of see that kind of manifest itself later on in the film, towards the conclusion, I think is good. So, yes, in my opinion, it is a horror movie.
Going along this rabbit hole of the meaning of the movie being about death and about the inevitability and him being aware of his destiny, seeing it literally before him, thinking about the character of Frank and his role that he plays. Frank has him do a couple things. He has him go flood the school. He has him burn down Patrick Swayze's house. And if you really think about the great meaning of the movie and what that has to do with it, it's not a lot. Like, you're like, those things don't just completely add up to what happens at the end.
If I can chime in, if we think about like this movie as being Donnie confronting his fear of the inevitability of death and coming to terms with death not being inherently bad and fear not being inherently bad and needing the darkness as much as you need the light, I think everything Frank does is very much paramount to that, in that he only meets Gretchen and starts going out with Gretchen because they don't go to school that one day.
Yeah.
So Frank has
Oh,
him.
I forgot about that.
Yeah,
He's
Frank-
like, I'm glad there was a flood.
And, like, obviously they talk about it in the classroom, like, thematically, like, you take an axe to the water main and something is created out of destruction. In this case, his relationship with Gretchen, which in the end is what helps him be okay with his death, because ultimately it's kind of about swapping her life for his. Is sort of what it's ultimately about.
Right.
And then also, he says as much when he confronts Patrick Swayze in the auditorium. He says, I don't know that I'm in the right. All I know is I don't trust you. I think you're the Antichrist.
Yeah.
And so Frank has him go burn down that guy's house, so he knows for a fact, oh, that guy is full of crap, and it is okay that I'm full of fear. Like, it was almost like there was a fear there of what if that guy's right, And what if I waste my life living in fear like he thinks, like Patrick Swayze's saying, you know? He's saying that I'm wasting my life because I'm okay with darkness and I'm okay living in fear. What if he's right about all that? So Frank sends him to prove, like, no, that guy's full of crap. It's okay to have darkness in your life.
One thing I wanna just taking a step back. I think the reason I really like this movie...
we're busy moving forward.
No. I don't mean take a step back in time or in concept. I mean, like, as if to see the bigger picture, you know, taking a step back. You know what I'm saying?
Oh,
anyways,
okay.
not to backtrack.
Oh, I gotta sink down in my chair over this one. Oh.
I like these movies that are very high concept and very low budget because it makes it feel, not that I could or anybody could just do this, but it almost makes you feel like you could do it, because I was the kind of kid that went and filmed horror movies with my friends when I was in high school, and we had these huge concepts, and I'm, you know, I like posted one on YouTube, and I was looking back at it, and it makes no sense, and there was all sorts of plot holes, and, you know, but it was super ambitious, and I was like thinking I was just...
What's the name of it?
It's called Shadowed, anyways.
Shadowed. Okay.
I was thinking I was Shyamalan. I was like,
I'm watching
it's
it
like
tonight.
11 minutes long.
Dude,
Super.
11 minutes of
but
my time.
Was that the one with Seth?
Seth's in. Yeah, he's the
Seth
main
Rogen.
character.
Okay, yeah.
Seth Rogen. That was
With
his
Seth
debut.
Rogen.
Yeah.
That's good.
We do
Rogen
get his
laugh.
laugh in this movie.
When you see movies like this, and there's a lot of other horror movies, but we're talking about this one. You see it, and you see the concepts, and how the things that don't make it, the things that make it good aren't the visuals, aren't, well, I mean, it's not the money behind it, it's not the, I don't know, I feel like because it's low budget and because the script is just so strong, it almost makes you feel ambitious and being like, you know what, a guy just came up with that, and it was awesome. So it makes a person like me, who's very passionate about horror and made his own horror movie when he was a kid, it's cool to see that, like, that work and that being something you can watch, and even though it doesn't make a whole lot of sense sometimes, and there's like, there might be a plot hole. I'm not sure. I don't know the movie well enough to say one way, but like, it's an inspiring movie. That's what I want to say. To take it, like, the whole thing, just
Sure.
one of the reasons I liked it a lot.
Yeah, for sure.
So to kind of like bring the discussion of the movie to a close, would you like to hear a little bit about how he came up with the story of this movie?
Yeah.
Sure.
What's
This
up?
is pretty wild, actually. One thing you'll see on TV, especially on like SportsCenter or ESPN or something like that, is they'll play like old clips of football games or football plays. They'll sometimes actually do this during live football games. They'll flash back and they'll show you some stuff. But they use a device which is called a telestrator, which is basically they have like an iPad and they can draw a diagram on the play. So they freeze frame a football play and they draw out a diagram of this is where everybody's going to go. This is how this play is going to unfold. And then they can press play on the clip and everybody will run out the play exactly as the commentator has drawn out and predicted. So apparently Richard Kelly was mega high watching football and was watching John Madden diagram out a play with a telestrator.
That's exactly
And
what I
he-
was thinking of. When you brought that up.
Well, here's a guy. Yeah, exactly. And apparently Richard Kelly was just incredibly impressed by this idea of like, but what if that happened to you in real life? What if you could see your life being diagrammed and mapped out? What if you could see your destiny? And basically the entire movie came from that. And that's why in the scene where Donnie first sees like the future blob, the thing that comes out of his chest, and shows him his destiny and the path he's going to walk. That's why in the first scene where he sees that happen, he's watching football with his dad.
2 things of inspiration: football, drugs.
Foosball.
Foosball and drugs. That's
Foosball.
that's the three of us. That's our style.
My mama said I can see my future if I do the cocaine and I play the football.
What I do is I take a little bit of snort right up the.
I take a little bit of the Colombian Bam Bam and away I go.
Anyway, love the Sandman. Love Adam Sandler. Shout out to that guy.
Imagine if he was Donnie Darko. Like, if
Frank,
Jake Gyllenhaal
Frank,
couldn't do it.
Where you putting on that rabbit suit? Where you get that on?
Why don't you take off that stupid man suit?
Okay, I'm doing. Oh my gosh!
I'm just picturing like, Right now. Why did you take off that stupid little bunny suit? Why don't you take off that stupid man suit? Why did you... Shut up!
Yeah, that's the one. That's even better. That's the Sandman himself. To kind of bring this a little bit to a close, is if we had to put ourselves in Donnie's situation, how do you think this... If we had to put ourselves in Donnie's shoes, how do you think that plays out for us? Or does it play out differently? Or does it play out the same?
So something interesting to point out about this movie that does fit our format is there is a final boy and a final girl.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's true.
There is.
Yeah.
Look at that.
It's sort of the cool thing of the body count in this movie is technically 3 people, but by the end of the movie, it's really only 1.
Mm-hmm.
In that, getting really into spoilers, what happens is in like a horrible driving accident, Gretchen is hit by a car and killed, and in like a rageful moment of vengeance, Donnie shoots and kills Frank, who had been driving the car, and then in desperation he follows an Einstein-Rosen bridge back to his room the night the jet engine crashed into it, and he just lays in bed instead of walking outside, and he gets hit by the plane engine, basically swapping his life for Gretchen's.
Mm-hmm.
And unbeknownst to Frank, who we see sitting up in his room crying for some reason in the middle of the night, almost like he sensed it, he is also like given his life for Frank's. So our final boy is actually Donnie, in that he almost makes it through the movie but then ultimately dies, and our final girl is in fact Gretchen, because she lives through the movie because of his actions.
And here's a side note as well. We see Patrick Swayze also crying in his room. So did he give his life for Patrick Swayze?
I must say no.
Well,
just because that guy's a dirtbag in this movie.
I think that's coming out one way
his
or
house.
another, and he's facing repercussions for what he's done, no matter what.
That's true.
I think, yeah, in a lot of ways, he was just a foil to Donnie, and he had to be proven to be he had to be proven false in order for Donnie to truly be okay with his death. So I think that's sort of what that comes down to.
Yeah.
Like,
all right. Yeah.
Donnie can pass away knowing that one day, like, the truth is going to come out about Jim Cunningham, that he's a terrible person.
I'm going to give an alternate ending to this. What if Donnie found himself back in his room, but then he ends up getting out of bed, ends up dealing with, some of the things that are in his life. Aggression is something that's very much a part of him in this movie. What if he harnessed that aggression into the sport of boxing?
So, okay.
And competed for the middleweight championship of the world in the universe of Southpaw. I'm just dropping the mic there, folks. Donnie Darko grew up to be Jake Gyllenhaal in Southpaw.
You're saying this is a prequel.
He dumped Gretchen, for sure.
Well, I mean, like, let's be honest. I don't know, he's like 16, 17. Like, are you really going to spend the rest of your life with somebody that you liked at 16 or 17? Probably not.
No.
If we're being honest.
It's a phase.
It's a phase. Just, I mean, like...
Wait, Adam, you're not with your high school girlfriend anymore?
No.
When were you going to tell me?
On live podcast.
Bro,
This
do you
is
have a
live.
number? Anyway, we'll get into that later.
Oh my god.
My entire universe is shattered. It's like my parents just told me they've been divorced the entire time.
Yeah. And what if, because of the head trauma that he took in the sport of boxing, he doesn't remember all of the things that had happened to him previously in earlier parts of his life? Or what if, because it was such a traumatic part of his life, he repressed those memories, but kept the aggression so that he could excel in boxing? Anyway, just saying, that is a foolproof alternate reality to this movie.
Pretty solid.
And I'm
Pretty
sticking
strong.
to it. Yeah.
The opportunity of a Groundhog Day situation is just right there.
Yeah.
I mean, he could live that, what was it, 20... How many
28 days?
28 days and blah, blah,
28
blah,
days and 6
12
hours.
seconds. He could do
69
that
minutes.
as many times as he wants. So, what I'm saying is he could go out every single time and live any life he wants. He could be every single Jake Gyllenhaal movie for the rest of eternity.
Including the Prince of Persia.
Yeah,
The sands of time. They mean so much more now.
I forgot he was in there.
That's how it all comes together.
Yeah, I know, right? Man, that's...
Every Jake
Haven't thought
Gyllenhaal
about that
movie
in a
is
while.
connected.
Man, it's all connected, man. The
Yeah.
Danny Darko effect.
That's a thing.
Donnie Brasco effect.
The Barney Roscoe effect.
Barney 5.
But Andy, I don't want to go into a Heimdall Bridge. So, yeah, that's our take on the movie.
Great. I mean, at least it was a good movie. I don't think any of the movies we've watched so far we could be like, yeah, that's a good movie.
Well, I mean, as always, you can follow me on Twitter. It's at Luke Haueter. That's LukeHaueter. You can find me on Spotify. I have songs there. If you feel inclined to listen. I'm gonna. I know what Adam's gonna say, so I'm gonna say it first. I'm also gonna plug a little show called Final Boy Status.
What am I gonna say
Go ahead
now?
and listen. Watch the movies if you want to watch.
Take my thing. Getting out
But
of
yeah,
this philosophical
I would
rant.
like to give a plug for a little movie that Adam Bone made, Shadow.
Oh my gosh.
I'm watching it tonight. Y'all need to look it up. It's on YouTube, right?
Yeah, it's on my channel, Adam Bone. It's called Adam Bone's Shadowed.
Dude, I'm seriously watching that tonight. And then I'm going to wake you up after... I don't know if you'll be awake. But anyway, whenever I get done with it...
This is at
I'm gonna
5
talk.
a.m.
5 a.m. That's when I do my movie watching.
Yeah.
Me and Lanson have been huddled around the TV like cavemen.
With
For
a little
11
blanket over
minutes,
top.
Not
Yeah.
even blinking.
Yeah. So, give that a look. It's fun. Adam's great. So, yeah, that's all I got to say about that.
Yeah, friend of the show, Seth Caller's in it, apparently.
Oh, yeah.
He is. He's the main character.
Does he qualify as a friend of this show?
At this show, he's never been on the show.
He's a brother, so yes.
I was going to say, I don't know how that works. Do they have to have been on the show to be considered a friend of the show?
He's an acquaintance of the show.
Oh, man, that sounds so
We're
cold.
aware of him.
Yeah.
Jeez.
Hey, he's got to be on the show. If he
Guy
wants to
gets
make
married
friend
and he
status.
leaves the dojo, man.
Yeah.
You're giving
He's
him
going
no
to die
love.
in the wilderness.
I don't know, maybe. He definitely got his purple belt. Maybe not a black belt, but a purple belt for sure. But yeah, everybody, hope you're having a good rest of your 2020. Embrace the spooky times. I know I'm super
Dive right
excited.
in right now.
I know.
It's not too early.
September for me is always the prep month for October. So
I'm
get
already
into
in
it.
it.
Yeah.
I'm already in it.
Enjoy it. We love you guys. Thank you for everything, for listening, for supporting. Yeah, and we'll catch you next time. Ahoy, hoy.
This has been an Underqualified Idiocracy media production, produced by Lanson Lappin, Adam Bone, and Luke Haueter. Theme music for the episode was written by Rachel Robison. You can hear more of Rachel's music at rachelrobinsonmusic.com. You can also find her on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram by searching at Robel Racheson. Artwork for the YouTube version of this podcast was created by Trinity Rodriguez. You can follow her on Twitter by searching at InstrinBaby to see more of her work. This podcast was recorded in Underqualified Studios and edited by Luke Haueter, with special thanks to Mike Fuchs for providing audio assistance. The illustrious voice acting providing the intro and outro of this episode is Shane Alvey of the Paradox Files voice acting. You can explore more of his work on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram by searching at The Paradox Files.
Hello everyone, thank you for tuning in to this episode of Final Boy Status. If you want to listen to the podcast version, which is longer than the version you find here on YouTube, you can find all the different streaming services we're available on at anchor.fm/finalboystatus. If you are insatiable and you just need that content, baby, you can go to patreon.com/Luke Haueter. That's LukeHaueter. We do extended and uncut versions of certain episodes, and they will be uploaded to the Patreon page if you just want to keep that Final Boy Status rolling. Finally, if you like what we're doing, click over here to watch even more Final Boy Status content. Click over here to subscribe.